1, 2, 3. Now.
This is the Holla Story, a branded podcast from Holla Spirits and Our York Media about two lifelong friends who set out to challenge the spirit industry and create a vodka brand for millennials like them. I'm Rebecca Hanlon of Our York Media, and we're sitting down again with Patrick Shorb and Matt Glaser, the co-founders of Holla Spirits. In episode 1, we talked a lot about how you guys got started, right up to the point where you decided to go all in. Now, I want to get into the actual product a little bit more. From what I understand, a lot of vodkas are pretty much the same, or at least the process of making them is the same. So let's talk a little bit about that. What actually goes into making a vodka?
The vodka process is pretty much an archaic process that dates back thousands of years. It's super simple. Basically, you take a base ingredient, you boil it up, add yeast, and extract the alcohol. I'm simplifying that just real quickly. We then learned that there are companies that sell that product throughout the country and the world to smaller companies that don't necessarily have the funds to be able to put in the big stacks and towers and distilling equipment and that kind of thing. Okay. So it's very simple, and that's where, when doing our research, we got a little frustrated, like, oh, they made it seem so hard for so many years that it's actually quite easy for many brands to, start up and, create whatever they felt was, going to be their pitch. So with the vodka, we source from, and NPR did a podcast about this. I think I mentioned it to you. It's podcast 826, really interesting background on the vodka industry and really how it works. So you can buy bulk vodka, bulk gin, bulk rum, bulk bourbon, bulk whiskey, you name it, to create your private label brand. And when we realized that, it was like, okay, that's perfect for our plain vodka. And with the background of Rhiannon Walsh, it was, okay, now how do we distinguish ourselves with some of the flavored vodkas?
So what are some of the gimmicks then that you guys saw that stood out to you when it came to the vodka industry?
Oh, there's a bunch. Filtration method. Most people are just using a standard charcoal filter. That's pretty much been the industry standard for most anything that you're filtering. You'll see people telling you they're using lava rocks, diamond dust, anything to make it feel like whatever they're filtering it through is going to be adding value to their product. Mm-hmm. The other is just where they're actually sourcing their water from. You have people saying it's water from the rainforest, it's water from a melted glacier. You also just have the base ingredients itself. Some people think it adds a little more excitement if the ethanol alcohol is being derived from something more exotic than your standard things like grains, corn, potato. You'll see. Okay. I think there's one that uses they use some sort of cow milk or something to derive the base from.
It's all over the map.
I mean, there's one liquor company that promises that the bottle has been poured over the naked body of an international supermodel before being rebottled and shipped to you. And there's apparently a market for that as well. So
you can really cater to anyone's taste.
Yeah, essentially vodka is lifestyle. That's our biggest pitch is, you drink the vodka that appeals to you, and generally it's all based on your lifestyle or your style. If you want to be fancy, be fancy. If you want to be fun, be fun. If you want to drink, well vodka or the stuff that does taste like razor blades, feel free, mix it in a punch bowl. But our thing is, this is easy. We're going to tell you precisely, where we come from and put it on our website and tell you exactly where we're sourcing, our products and methods and that kind of thing. So
you guys are seeing a lot of these gimmicky things, and I can imagine somewhat irritating.
Yeah.
And to some degree. So what does that put in you then to want to go out and prove that you're different? Like how does that push you to be different?
I would say we start with transparency. I mean, plain vodka, again, is plain vodka. It's very simple. As long as you get to a certain threshold, most people, 95% of the time, aren't going to necessarily distinguish the difference between your plain vodka in their cocktail versus another one. And it's really fun. We do taste tests with family, friends all the time, and we'll line up 5 or 10 different vodkas even, and just start going down the line and having people rating them. We'll get one result one day, and you could have an $8 bottle of vodka win that taste test, flat out, and then the next day we'll do it again, and you'll get totally different results. So that's kind of our thing. Plain vodka, most people are going to end up blending it in a cocktail, and it doesn't have to have, it's generally pretty pure after a certain level of distilling and filtration. So our vodkas are 5 and 6 times distilled, depending on which product you're talking about. And then you've got companies that are saying, oh, it's 10 and 12 times distilled. Well, it doesn't really matter after a certain point.
Okay.
So that's where we try to distinguish ourselves on the infusions.
Gotcha.
And we price it accordingly. Our plain vodka is priced, much less than any of the infusions. So it's pretty simple stuff.
Yeah, long before we came along, someone realized that the next step to distinguishing your vodka was to do flavors. So we're just trying to put our own twist on that. There's obviously hundreds of different vodka flavors out there. We're going with organic natural infusions. So we have pretty distinct flavors that we chose for those. And we're using fresh organic ingredients. So that's where we're trying to kind of distinguish ourselves with a legitimate thing to distinguish ourselves with, and not just some gimmicky story that we're telling you.
So what are the flavors that you guys have?
We have a jalapeno. Was our first, we call it an infusion, not necessarily a flavor, and that's made with real jalapeno. So that was basically one. We went to Rihanna and said, hey, we've got our plain vodka, we have the brand that we're trying to create. How can we actually create, really nice products using your background and expertise and being in this industry so long? And she said, okay, well, I think, a jalapeno is really nice in Bloody Marys. We can do it in this sugarcane vodka, which Rhiannon, unlike myself and probably Matt a little bit, can distinguish, that different taste between some vodkas. So
Gotcha. Okay.
Let's do that. Let's come out with a jalapeno. And then it was summertime last year, and she said, hey, I have all this mint growing in my garden on my farm. Why don't we do a mint vodka? And It was perfect. Yeah, let's do it. Unfortunately, we didn't, harvest enough mint, so we kind of ran out of that recently. But we'll bring that back in the summer and, go from there. It's seasonal, yeah. And then we were talking, obviously, we talked to bartenders, we talked to our friends, we talked to family. What do you want to see next? The fall came around, and it was, okay, cinnamon. Perfect, let's do that. Rhiannon has a really nice source that we bring in from the West Coast, and it's all fresh, really nice high-quality cinnamon. So it's not chemical additives or any of the just droplets that you put into the base vodka to create these flavors or infusions.
But you guys going the natural route, it is more challenging.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, it takes a lot more time. Matt can talk.
Well, Rhiannon told us right off the get-go, when you're using organic ingredients, there is going to be some variation from batch to batch. We're at the mercy of the ingredients, and it's just, you'll notice it yourself. You'll get oranges from the grocery store one week, and they're super full of flavor, citrusy, and then 2-3 weeks later, they might have brought it in from a different source, and they're just a little watered down tasting. So we knew we were going to encounter different variations. So with the jalapenos, she's trying to make sure we get the consistency and the oils, the heat level. Cinnamon, we've noticed there's some variation in the colors depending on what temperature that we're doing the infusion at.
Okay.
So you'll see some that have a dark amber color, others that just have a mild brown tint to it. But we're always trying to make sure that the prevalence of the cinnamon flavor is the same in that one. And same deal with the mint, just a lot of mint extract in there that's just, we're trying to make sure that we have the same color consistency and flavor in that one as well.
Okay.
And some of those can take up to 2 weeks to infuse. And even in this colder weather, we've noticed that, the cinnamon especially is taking a lot longer to infuse, and we're just not prepared to bottle it at that point. We want it to be right. So
Sure.
Yeah.
So, you guys have stayed away from, what we've said are the gimmicky flavors, nothing is jelly bean or, dessert, because you can't really naturally infuse something like that. But how do you come up with the flavors that you're going to then? Because you have some others, you're not done with what you have now.
No, I mean, that's generally just market feedback. We're going into bars, we're going into restaurants, not as much nightclubs, but talking to bartenders, talking to bar managers, talking to friends, family. What do you want to see next? What's different? What is your favorite vodka? So we are going to release some new citrus flavors for spring, summer of 2019, coming out here pretty soon. We just got our federal label approval on that, so we're pretty excited to roll out a lemon in the very near future, and then an orange that's going to be an online-only purchase in a new package that we've put together.
Okay.
So
nice.
Yeah, and that's, again, based on, we called it Lemon's End because lemon has been overdone in the industry. We know nearly every vodka brand that's out there has put out a lemon.
Yeah.
And we went to Rhiannon and said, okay, if we're going to do it, let's do it right. And, let's make sure the customer is going to enjoy it and it's going to be very high quality. And then, okay, no more lemon, guys. We know, we've overplayed this a little bit, but we like drinking it. We put it with our water, and, it's pretty good standard drink. So
okay,
we're going to do it. We're going to try to do it well.
So, even though you've been expanding, you've been adding new flavors, you guys really consider yourselves to be a micro brand or a small brand. Mm-hmm. But you don't like the term craft, which has kind of become popular as of late. So why does that get under your skin?
Because it's generally used by plain vodkas, and plain vodka isn't really a craft. I mean, we're not even baking cookies here. It's ethanol plus water is vodka in many cases, and once you get above that certain filtration and distillation level, this isn't rocket science. This isn't very hard. So craft just doesn't really fit. We think it's a marketing gimmick. It originated in the vodka industry out of the South, and now even your chicken nuggets are craft or handmade, and it's okay, I think we're past that point at this point, but yeah.
So you still have been able to distinguish yourselves with quality. I know Rhiannon has been huge for that, bringing her on board. Are there other ways that she's really been a key player that we haven't really covered yet, that she's brought her expertise to the table and what it is that you guys are doing?
Well, she's always been focused on natural botanical infusions when she does that sort of work, and I think that just really fits with what the market wants right now. I mean, people want to know what's in their products. They want it to be natural. They're getting more scared of artificial flavors, colors, things like that. So just ensuring that we're getting quality organic ingredients for the products that we're using from her is a big help for us.
Okay. So you guys, now you have a vodka brand.
Yeah.
Now it's in bottles. You're growing it, but it wasn't as easy for you guys to actually be able to offer it to people and sell it. Getting into stores in particular in Pennsylvania was really challenging for you guys. So what happened after you guys, you got a product, you were able to sell it, but couldn't?
It's super difficult. Yeah, and I'd say going back to Rhiannon, that's where, she had the expertise in being in this industry to get through the sort of legal hurdles and all the regulatory steps that need to be taken to, be able to sell an alcohol legally. You can't really
that's a big help.
Build a brand without being able to legally sell a product. It's not,
And it's not readily available information. I mean, for the common person to just find out what they need to do in order to sell alcohol, it's not like there's an easy website that you just click on a bunch of links and find it out. I mean, it's all randomly stashed on government announcements about a legislation that passed or something like that. So having someone like her that already had a lot of that kind of in the back of their mind, it was just a huge weight off our shoulders, not having to just find all of that out completely on our own.
So you guys, you're in York, Pennsylvania, but you weren't able to sell it in Pennsylvania first.
No, when we first got started, basically we pitched the product to the state, and at that time we had a co-packing relationship. So we went up there. At the time we only had one vodka out at that point, and it's tough to convince them, hey, this is our hobby. Do you want to bring our vodka in and see how it does?
Sure.
So fast forward, thank God, we got connected with Rhiannon, set up this limited distillery, and Pennsylvania has been really forward-thinking with their laws.
Okay.
And, these laws basically in the spirits world are descendants of Prohibition back in the 30s. And they're just kind of stale and not necessarily up to date, but fortunately, Pennsylvania has been really supportive in allowing the micro distilling business throughout this state, at least, start to thrive. So you see a lot of different companies popping up in some really great places, and different spirits, some really nice whiskeys and gins and bourbons, things of that nature. So once we got into their program, things got a lot easier. So we started in about 12 stores last May, and we're in about 40 now. So we're pretty proud of that. And you can find us primarily in the central and eastern part of the state at this point.
And how many stores are there in Pennsylvania? What's the potential?
A little over 600 stores in PA. Yeah.
Okay. But for you guys, initially, where were you selling your product? If not in PA liquor stores? We
started in Delaware. So while we waited for PA to get approved, we went down to Delaware and we were just hand selling. We'd go down, stay the summertime, and sleep out down there and just go into bars and restaurants and pitch it as much as you could. But it's difficult. We didn't have the resources to be driving back and forth and everything else that goes along with that. So
and every state's different with how you can do business. So like in Delaware, we were represented by a distributor that was helping move us. Now for Pennsylvania, we operated for an entire year where we could sell within Pennsylvania. We just weren't actually on the shelves in the fine wine and good spirit stores.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, that was when we were pretty much relying on local bars and restaurants that we had some sort of connection with to kind of help support us by bringing product in through the special liquor order method. And then, like he said, February or March of 2018 is when we actually got shelf presence. And that's kind of when everything changes.
Yeah.
I mean, so I can imagine what the challenges are of having a product and not being able to sell it. But what is that like when you have something? I mean, you need money to really build a business, and you need a product to sell. How did you kind of get through those periods?
Beyond frustrating.
Yeah.
It's to say the least. But basically, we worked for free. We worked off savings and worked off some money from our parents, and did the best we could with what we had.
Yeah.
Sold as much inventory as we could to bring in some cash, and otherwise just kept fighting the good fight and figured, we'll get there someday. If we don't, then again, we'll just go get a job.
Go get jobs.
Yeah.
What was your strategy in getting your name out there? Because nobody knew who you were. You were brand new.
We started off with the social media focus. And like I was talking about, when we first had the idea of Holla, social media used as an advertising tool was kind of still in the early stages. I think Facebook had just kind of introduced the ability to run advertisements and things like that. So, I mean, we saw that as a way that we could kind of take a non-traditional route to get our name out. Now, by the time a lot of the legislation and stuff actually got through and we had a product to sell, social media and advertising had kind of solidified into what we see it now, where it's more of a mainstream tool that's being used by everyone. But that was our initial thoughts on how we could get out there without, your traditional magazine ads and billboards, things like that.
Yeah. And you were physically going to things, like you two were setting up at events and being present. And what was that like early on?
Yeah, we did a lot of tastings in bars and restaurants and festivals, and we still do. We still do them, all over the state. And Matt does a ton of them in stores. It's not easy, but it's a great way to, obviously, once we got in stores, you're able to be at an event and tell people about it, and they get to enjoy it, and then they can actually go buy it. So it's been fun now to kind of see that spread, and now, we see some people coming back to those same events and repeat buying and talking to us and becoming friends. It's really pretty fun. Everybody likes to come up to you and talk about vodka when you're giving them free vodka, so it's been pretty cool that way.
And we even did some national events too, like a bar and nightclub show out in Las Vegas and wholesaler events, things like that. So we've displayed the product to some people in other states, and we've gotten some feedback from other parts of the country. It's just a matter of when we can actually, get the licensing down to do business in those states.
When you guys were going out on that national platform, you mentioned Las Vegas. You won an award out there, also in San Francisco. But your take on those awards is a little different than people might expect. What is the value in those awards, and then perhaps what is the disenchantment that you guys have experienced from those?
I mean, people like to see that something won an award, and I think it's just gotten to the point where the industry knows that. So not only is there hundreds, if not thousands of competitions, each of those competitions has 4 or 5 tiers of the awards they're giving. Multiple people can win that tier. So, I mean, while it's great that we were awarded a gold and a silver in the competitions that we entered, we kind of did realize that it's mostly like a money racket for a lot of these industries. I mean, there's a pretty hefty fee involved with even getting your product considered in one of these contests. So, I mean, they're just collecting a lot of entry fees and giving people awards that help them sell their products. So, I mean, once we kind of realized that that's how the system works, we kind of became disenchanted with it, like you said. But, I mean, we are happy about the ones that we got, and, we're just going to move forward from there.
I mean, you really kind of rely on then not recognition from these national entities, but from the people who are going to buy a bottle.
Yeah, we're more concerned about someone that buys the bottle, enjoys it, and wants to continue to be a Holla customer. I mean, whether or not you do that based off what some random organization in another state said about our product, that's totally up to you.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we're focused on our true Holla fan base and not someone that's just worried about all that, like, glitz and glamour of an award.
Yeah. So, I mean, you were working really hard. So you got that recognition. You're starting to, move things forward. But as we kind of mentioned briefly, you really need income to be able to support a business. And you guys were really close to running out of money.
Oh, yeah.
Did you run out?
we were really close to running out of money. We were both working for free and running up some credit card debt, and just trying to sell as much inventory as we had purchased and could sell as possible. At that time, it was, this is a little stressful. We need to actually raise capital, raise some funds. So, we went out and did a friends and family offering, and luckily that went better than expected. Closed within a few months, and it's just us and our, we talked a lot about, our family friends growing up, and we really got a great group of people together that kind of live and see and, have the same passion for the brand that we do. And it's not like we went out or took money from like private equity or any of the, companies that were approaching us at the time. We wanted it to be more of a friends and family brand, and it is. And, I think that shows in what we do and how we do it.
Did you guys have, this was a long period of time for you where there was some uncertainty. You talked about if it didn't work, you would go get jobs. Did you ever have in that process thoughts of, well, maybe we need to go get jobs? Or were you still just like riding whatever was going to come?
Kind of riding, and we always had a resume prepared. But
there was definitely a couple times towards the end there where, I mean, before we were able to secure the financing that we got, where it was like, I might have to start sending out some applications here. But luckily we were able to, outlast the tough times and got to the point where we are now.
Did you have a moment at any point in that time period or that journey where you felt like, okay, we've made it. Like, we're at a point where, like, we're good?
You're never good.
Yeah, I don't think...
It's a constant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the
battle.
second that you get that feeling is when you're going to stop doing the necessary steps to actually build the brand to the point that it needs to be. So, I mean, at least this early on, I mean, I don't think we're ever going to be satisfied with where we're at.
No. We don't sit still.
Yeah. So, but in early 2018, you did hit PA shelves, and we've kind of touched on that a little bit. Were you nervous about having people actually go into the stores to buy it?
No.
Yeah, I don't think there was any nervousness at that part. I mean, everything about getting on shelves was relief. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, it just... The model, the special liquor order model is you have to go to the store, request that they order it. They send that order to us. We ship it to the PLCB, who then brings it to the store. And the whole process is a week or two. So trying to get private consumers to go out and purchase vodka that way is just... It's not happening. You get really dedicated friends and family that'll take the time to do that.
I was going to say, did you send out like an army to certain stores?
The average consumer's not going to buy that special liquor order route. So, I mean, the minute they were like, hey, you're going to actually get shelf placement, anybody that walks off the street can just go in there and see your bottle on the shelf. I mean, it was nothing but relief at that point.
So what happened after that? I mean, getting in the liquor stores, what was that point after that? Like, what do you do then?
Oh gosh,
you've been fighting for it for so long.
What do you do then? Yeah, you continue to fight, and basically we got our original vodka on shelves, followed that up with the jalapeno, and then rolled out the mint and the cinnamon. So right there, I think those different infusions added credibility to the brand overall. And, people were willing to trust it. And we do a lot of these samplings in stores and continue to do festivals, continue to do social media advertising, most of which is just us kind of joking about the industry and kind of laughing about where it historically came from. But, yeah, it's a constant grind. We're
There's
out
a lot
there
of work to keep
every
it on
day.
the shelves, too. I mean, we have 4 flavors now. Some of the stores were a little, they didn't bring all 4 in at once. They'd only have like an original and a jalapeno. So we need our reps to go out there and say, hey, can you bring in the other flavors? So, I mean, we need to make sure that we're getting the proper placement too. We're a PA recognized brand and we are a vodka. Well, there's a vodka section and there's a made in PA section.
Yeah.
Some stores put us in one and not the other. Some were double placed in both. So, I mean, that's another thing we have to stay on top of. We have to send people around, make sure we have the best placement that they can give us, things like that.
For sure. Okay.
Yeah, and all of that, I'll just chime in real quick, is being changed throughout the state. They're setting up a new diagram where, all the different spirits are going to be placed. So we may end up being on the bottom shelf, but, we're still going to be there somewhere. So we just ask that customers kind of look for it and, continue to support, because we don't have the funds and can't pay for that kind of, special placement.
Is that what it would go to if they change
part
things?
of it? Part of it includes, I guess fees to secure your location. Yeah.
Interesting.
Preference. Yeah.
So you still have some work to do.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You really have to stay on top
it's
of
fun.
it.
I mean, like I said, nobody, doesn't really want to talk vodka. It's just, it's an enjoyable business. And as long as we can do this, we're in.
Awesome. Very cool. Okay. Well, we're going to wrap that up for this episode then. So coming up on the next and final episode, Patrick and Matt are going to talk about where they go from here, the future of Holla Vodka, and the legacy. The Holla Story is a co-production of Holla Spirits and Our York Media. It's produced by Will Hanlon and Caleb Robertson. You can learn more about Holla Vodka at their website, hollaspirits.com. I'm Rebecca Hanlon. Thanks so much for listening.